Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, especially in Finland, where 5G has always been very welcome. Today I will talk about the 5G policy in the EU. The first thing to start with is I will quote our president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, who said in her State of the Union speech that in an unprecedented manner, it's time for us to invest in 5G and fiber. And that's definitely where the policy is geared. I will not cover the whole digital policy today, of course, but just to give the latest about the direction of the policy. The objectives for 2030 are basically summarized in four directions like this. So we summarize them in a compass. We call that the Europe's digital compass. And just as much as Finland is north and a bit east of Europe, today we will focus on this northeast part, which is infrastructure and in infrastructure connectivity. But that is just to show the global context that for all these four directions, there are skills, of course, which mean skills are tricky because it's basic skills, it's specialized skills, and it keeps the targets keep getting up. So there's an ongoing activity which doesn't stop on skills for ICT for digital. It's about government, about the use cases and improving the public services, and it's about, of course, businesses. So that's for businesses and with businesses. But now focusing on infrastructures, today 5G is part of the connectivity network, and there the objectives are gigabit access for everyone and 5G in all populated areas. This is how we summarize the policy objectives, and for this we are discussing with the member states a new mechanism we call Path to the Digital Decade, to see how we can work closer with each member state and regularly follow on indicators that will monitor these directions. So in terms of 5G, there are discussions about actually which kinds of 5G, and we will discuss that. We will see that later. That having 5G coverage for smartphones all over a country, or actually in for most of the population, might not be enough because of the new use cases of 5G. Right. So this was just the context of the policy in the EU. Now, why invest so much in infrastructure? Of course, because it enables all the rest. This digital transformation that we are promoting everywhere is funded on is grounded on these on this infrastructure. We have digital decade policy targets for 2030, 1 gigabit per second in all households, 5G in all populated areas. This is the big summary. But more concretely, we are doing this for something. So in the case of 5G, the use cases for each sector, which we call each vertical sector, are definitely what we're looking for. And so we are looking at policies that can do 5G for something. So 5G for being integrated with the cloud, 5G in relation with how data will be used for a vertical sector, and all that to serve the needs of socio-economic drivers and the use cases. So focused on the what for, basically. But this is just a brief recap. That early on we had the 5G action plan. We wrote the 5G action plan back in 6 years ago about, and that was all about that, about thinking really what was in 5G that was special, that was more than just 4G plus one. So not only smartphones, but also the critical use cases, the massive connectivity of objects and enabling Internet of Things, and the vertical use cases. So we had a gigabit society communication with clear objectives to cover also transport paths, and I'll come back to that. So quite from early on. In 2021, we released the EU toolbox for 5G security to have a team EU vision about how to tackle cybersecurity issues when it comes to 5G, because of course 5G, if it connects objects, then cybersecurity becomes even more important to critical sectors in our industry and in our society. And now I mentioned the digital decade with those objectives further on for 2030. So now, more concretely, I will not dig too much into details, but we see that two-thirds. So, of course, Finland here is singled out as, of course, as always, the one of the leaders. So that's of course great, but that's not the point. What we are looking at is the whole of European Union. So, if we look at pure coverage in terms of is there 5G signal. The figures that we get, we are trying to have common methodology. We have a 5G European observatory for that to try to aggregate figures with similar methodologies around Europe, and it's not easy. We see 64. The figure we get basically is 64%. It might be, depends on methodologies, but that gives an indication which is rather good actually in terms of population coverage already in 2021. But that should not hide that there are different qualities of 5G, and that these areas covered with 5G may be okay for smartphones and normal usages, but not for for critical usage, for some vertical sectors, for massive connectivity of objects, for enabling the IoT. So we must also look at these with some kind of distance, and think that once a population is covered, so that's already a great first step. Then the immediate second step is what kind of 5G? Is it good 5G? Is it has it enough quality? And that depends also on which spectrum is used. So this is why I put also the map of spectrum assignments, and you can see that that speeds are different in different member states. So at EU level, what we're trying to do is to try to make this good, looking good all over Europe. And these are the international 5G figures. So immediately you can see that the different zones have chosen different spectrum allocations and assignments. So it's a bit difficult, and there are different market dynamics also. For example, in the US, there are some mobile operators which use a lot of fixed wireless access, but that's because they are well positioned in mobile, so there's competition with cable operators there. So it's a bit difficult to compare the countries, but still we can see that, for example, in terms of number of antenna divided by population, China and South Korea are really speeding up, and this makes all the interest of not losing time at all in the EU, and checking which are the zones which are more late, and focusing on them. What makes the comparison difficult is, of course, the differences in spectrum allocations, market dynamics, also different rhythms. Some were more advanced in 3G, some in 4G, so some leapfrog a bit 4G. So it's a bit difficult to compare, but basically the time to invest is now. So now that was the more global element. More concretely, policy actions of the European Commission. Quite early on, we launched a public-private partnership on 5G, of course, the 5G PPP, which set the vision with three phases. First, investigating with more research intentions, then standardizing. And phase 3 was about piloting vertical use cases and real applied use cases. This has now transformed into the 6G SNS joint undertaking. So it's the Smart Network and Services joint undertaking, which will go on researching 6G and will also take care about deploying 5G and what are the discussions about 5G deployment. All right. So this phase 3 is now finishing. Pilots are now expected to become sustainable early deployments. So we are there at the frontier between between the last phases of research and innovation and the first phases of deployment. And so that was all about involving the vertical activities, so transport, industry, energy, health usages, smart cities, and we'll come back to it when I talk about concrete support from the EU. This is just a different angle to see it. After the crisis, there was this recovery and resilience facility, so a temporary one-shot injection of funding into the economy to boost its resilience and recovery. 20% of it had to be, so member states were writing the plans, each plan, but 20% of it we agreed should be digital. So digital in the broad sense, and not only infrastructure for connectivity, but it happened that the figures are huge. 26% digital means 117 billion euros in the European Union, and for connectivity, that the amount was 13 billion if we add up all the amounts, all the EU countries. And the cross-border projects were in microelectronics, which has a CHIPS Act, which is very important for us at the moment, in cloud, in 5G corridors, so the transport paths coverage, and in very high-capacity submarine cables. These were the cross-border projects. So just a few statistics. All the plans, the 27 ones, refer to a national strategy for infrastructure, including mobile and 5G. 11 plans actually had investments for 5G. So some on corridors, some on fiber backhaul, basically, and some really targeted on the use cases. Well, that was just that was temporary. So after that, we'll go back to the usual funding, the continuous funding. And continuous funding, this is how the Commission supports at EU level rollout. So we have the Connecting Europe facility. And now with a digital arm, this Connecting Europe facility is historically existed already for transport and energy, but now it has really a digital budget with 2 billion euros in this budget period until 2027. And there are different actions. Well, I don't go through all of them because some of them are about submarine cables or global gateways to connect Europe with third countries or remote areas. There is a quantum element, high performance computing elements. There are different, and also a cloud federation. But about 5G, there are two actions. The 5G corridors along the transport paths, so highways, railways, even waterways, and 5G for smart communities, which means 5G connectivity for vertical usages in localized zones. And I will just explain a little bit more. Voilà, this is the map of the 5G corridors as they were in the CEF regulation. So basically, these are the first corridors which were intended, and the cross-border sections of these are the ones where EU value is and where our CEF funding goes. There is 1 billion euros to focus on these because these are the early deployment sections where we can show the difference. Show the collaboration between countries, so between operators, car manufacturers, all the mobility ecosystem and the connectivity ecosystems together. So this is really a flagship element. We figured out that there is a lot of investment required, most of it coming from private sector. That's a given, but we are catalyzing with cross-border section. We fund them. So there was an open call already. There are many studies. We received proposals, and then upcoming there is a second call already. So it's under evaluation, the first call. So I cannot give we do not have the result of the evaluation yet. But basically, this is what it's about, and there's a second call coming in 6 months. So this is my last slide. It's about 5G for smart communities. So this is the other action where Europe wants to support 5G development. 5G for smart communities is about funding the 5G network where it's not already there or not enough for users that need it whatever the sector. So that could be health, a hospital or a network of hospitals. That could be education, university, or a network of schools, or this kind of thing. It can be at regional level, but rather local projects. And these local projects, we want them to be early deployments, proofs of early deployments, and to use them as a set of best practices. And once we have them, we will coordinate actions to gather all those best practices and raise awareness towards other public actors. So in this case, we are focusing on public authorities as end users and providers of services of general interest. So the health and education sector, mostly public protection also. So it's the choice of the sector is bottom up. We don't do it. It's open to all sectors, but we want to fund these kinds of early deployments. And once we have them, we use them to as best practices to help others, basically, to replicate this without the funding of the coordinated of the Connecting Europe facility. So that this is all the idea. So we had a first call for proposal, which ended last April. We are evaluating it. We are quite happy with the diversity of countries and sectors that we received. The results will be announced in September. But even more importantly, we have a second call coming on these 5G for smart communities in October this year, from October to January, basically. It will be open. And here we expect, I really invite all the actors who are either smart, so not just smart cities, it's open to villages, rural zones, so smart communities who have vertical usages and can really bring early developments and innovation further to show, to help us show and support others who can replicate it. So this is really where we want to place the edge and the early deployment of 5G for its vertical use cases, not just 5G for the smartphones, 4G plus one. And yes, we will also what we will do for that is, once we have a few projects, we are tendering a contractor who will really gather these and raise awareness and organize events to communicate on this and all the benefits of 5G for smart communities. Yeah. Thank you very much. That concludes my presentation, and I set my contact details in case you want to contact me. Thank you.